All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you're gearing up for that massive 8-hour class on land registration, or you just really want to understand the nuts and bolts of property frameworks, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to take all those heavy, abstract global land rights concepts and distill them down into a streamlined journey. We're going straight from high-level global theory right down to the highly practical, everyday reality of land subdivision in Nepal. It's an incredible transition from the paperwork to the actual dirt under our feet. So let's just jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our macro to micro journey for today. We're hitting 6 key areas: property defined, the function of registration, systems of conveyance, the mirror's flaw, the Nepalese process, and finally, land fragmentation.
Starting off with Section 1, property defined. What do we actually own?
Now, you might hear people use these terms interchangeably all the time, but legally, there is a massive, absolutely crucial difference between real estate and real property. Real estate is just the physical stuff, the immovable dirt, the trees, the bricks, the buildings. But real property? Actually, scratch that. It's more like real property expands that whole definition. It takes those physical objects and wraps them in an invisible bundle of ownership and usage rights. It's not just the land, it's the common law rights that physically run with the land, the right to lease it, sell it, use it. And it's this abstract bundle of rights that we are actually trading and registering.
Moving on to Section 2, registry functions. How do we track these invisible rights?
Well, this is exactly where land registration steps in. Registration is the official public recording of these legally recognized interests. Think of it as the ultimate ledger for society. It answers 2 super important questions: who owns what, and how do they own it? By generating this documentary evidence, a land registry actually secures your formalized property rights. It regulates how those rights are transferred, and, maybe most importantly, it gives us the exact documentary evidence we need to resolve property disputes. Let's be real, without it, our modern land markets would literally fall apart.
Which brings us to Section 3, systems of conveyance.
So, around the world, there are basically 3 different ways societies handle the transfer or conveyance of these invisible rights. First up is private conveyancing. This is basically just private arrangements. No direct public notice, no state supervision. Then we have deeds registration. In this system, a public repository logs and archives your legal documents. It acts as a public notice that a transaction happened, but, and this is a big but, it only registers the document. It does not register or guarantee your actual title to the property. Finally, we have title registration. Here, the legal consequence of the transaction is what gets registered. The state gets actively involved, they examine the transactions, they guarantee the title, and they map the land perfectly. In this system, the register itself is your definitive proof of ownership.
Let's just focus for a second on why that first approach, private conveyancing, is such a nightmare. Because it's just between private individuals without a public register, it is highly, highly insecure. If someone accidentally destroys the old deeds or say they're lost in a flood, your proof of ownership simply vanishes. Poof, gone. And the risk of fraud? It is immense. Someone could totally falsify documents and sell the same plot of land to an innocent third party, and that buyer has zero way to publicly verify who the true owner is. It is a wildly slow, expensive, and risky way to do things.
Let's look at Section 4, the mirror's flaw.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it challenges a core concept of title registration. It's something called the mirror principle. The idea is that the public register should reflect the current facts about a title perfectly, just like a mirror. But, as Jaap Zevenbergen pointed out at a World Bank conference, this mirror concept is, frankly, oversold. He says it's either very incomplete because of unrecorded overriding interests, or it gets too rigid and puts the title before reality. Think about something like an unregistered inheritance. Say a registered owner passes away and the land legally goes to their heirs. Well, if that paper title isn't officially updated, suddenly the mirror is totally out of sync with what's actually happening on the ground. So the title isn't always a flawless reflection after all.
Section 5, the Nepalese process. All right, let's shift gears from global theory down to a highly specific day-in-the-life reality. Let's look at how a buyer and seller actually navigate the improved deed system in Nepal. It's a 5-step dance. First is marketing, finding the place and getting credit sorted. Second is pre-contracting, where both parties shake hands on the conditions and sign a preliminary paper. Third, you've got payment and valuation, paying revenue to the local municipality to get an official valuation report. Fourth is contracting. Here, you bring in a professional conveyor called a lekendas, and they physically draft the deed for everyone to sign. Finally, we hit registration. Down at the Land Revenue Office, junior and senior clerks, The Karadar and Nayab Suba meticulously review the deeds, check the records, and officially register the whole thing. It is quite the bureaucratic journey.
Let's move to and see how this builds when we actually need to physically divide a parcel of land during a sale. The subdivision process in Nepal gets even more hands-on. The Land Revenue Office sends a subdivision order over to the survey office. And this is where a really crucial figure steps in, the Amin, or assistant surveyor. The Amin doesn't just sit at a desk looking at papers. They actually invite the buyer and the adjacent neighbors out into the field for physical boundary verification. Right there in the dirt. They draft a temporary map update, carve out the parcel, assign a new number, then a survey inspector double-checks it, and the survey officer gives the final stamp of approval. It's a beautiful process because it directly connects the abstract paper deed to the physical earth through neighborly consensus.
And finally, Section 6, Land Fragmentation.
So here is the absolutely crucial takeaway from all of this. When our legal and administrative systems allow for the endless subdivision of parcels on paper, the physical earth really takes a hit. We see a prime example of this in the Nawalparasi district of Nepal. Because parcels keep getting legally divided among heirs and buyers over and over again, we're seeing severe land fragmentation. You wind up with insane multiple ownership complexities and these tiny, scattered little plots. And guess what? That makes large-scale farming pretty much impossible. It drastically tanks agricultural efficiency. The legal right to slice up the land basically ends up destroying its actual economic utility.
Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought to leave you with. We've just seen how societies have spent centuries carefully constructing these massive systems, from defining that invisible bundle of property rights to building these ledgers of registration, down to the very specific field roles of the Lekhandas and the Amin in Nepal. But if our legal systems are designed to prioritize and allow the endless subdivision of these abstract rights, how do we actually preserve the physical land itself for future generations? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped lay down a solid foundation for your 8-hour class, connecting all that abstract legal theory to the very earth we stand on. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.